So before we continue with today's session, it is so important that we do an acknowledgement of traditional lands. Royal Roads University acknowledges that the campus is located on the traditional lands of the Esquimalt and Songhees ancestors and families. It is with gratitude that we now learn and work here, where the past, present, and the future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, faculty, and staff come together. Welcome. So today's session is a casual interview and coffee with Sherry Hilliard. Welcome, Sherry.
Hi, good morning.
So Sherry is a Bachelor of Commerce grad, and she is a co-owner and general manager of Whistler Photo Safaris. We're also joined today by Ross Porter, who is a professor in the BCom program and also the BCom program head. My name is Emara Angus. I'm an education specialist, and we also have Andrea behind the scenes with tech support. She is the recruitment manager. And now we're just going to dive right into questions. Can everybody give me a thumbs up using the reaction feature to let me know you're ready for that? Awesome. Or a real thumbs up, that works too. Perfect. So Sherry, I'd love to have you tell us more about yourself.
Okay, great. Well, I currently am in Whistler, British Columbia. I've lived here about 10 years. Prior to that, I lived for about 10 years in the Kootenays and originally from Ontario. So I started out a career in film and television in Toronto and enjoyed a great acting career. It was a lot of fun, a lot of great opportunities there to learn. And then I owned an equestrian little horse ranch in the mountains. And so that was a really great chapter. And I opened a yoga studio there. And then I kind of got into the corporate world and did some managing of a couple insurance offices. And then that brought me to pursuing my degree and opening a business here in Whistler.
That's amazing. You have a really diverse background. And it seems like you're drawn. Are you really drawn to animals as well? Because I see the trend with horses and bears.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anything to do with nature. I do like to change things up. Like sometimes I joke and say, what on earth am I going to do next? But yeah, it is definitely wonderful being able to be close to animals for sure. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, we'll have you back in a few years and we'll see what you're doing then. But my next question for you is, what made you want to go back to school for a degree? Like, you shared with us what you were doing before you went to school, but what made you want to go back and do the BCom degree?
Yeah, like I really enjoyed all of my careers and professional, sort of pursuits, and I hadn't done any real higher education, so I was definitely feeling, a little bit of a gap there. Talking to some other people who had gone back to school, them saying that they kind of rewired their brain. That really intrigued me. I was like, how exciting. And then a couple other pieces were, if I was able to, start these various businesses that I have over the years, kind of just on intuition and gut, what would happen if I knew what I was doing? So that was a big sort of motivation. And, my own father had also, operated a pretty incredible business just, off of his own intuition and gut. And I thought, if he ever had the opportunity to school, what would he have done as well? So it was kind of like, something I wanted to do in his memory.
Wow, that's incredible. So I'm curious. So what happened? You just said, like, what would happen if I knew what I was doing? And it sounds like you knew what you're doing before.
Yeah.
What happened?
So when I finally came, so, I looked into it and I got pretty excited. I actually was nervous because I had, I'm a mature student. And so, the way Royal Roads presents, the flexible admission and the fact that you can use life experience to apply, felt really great, but I still was nervous. I tried really hard. I gathered, up all of my credentials and resume, and I was nervous if I'd even get in. And so that was a big, just like learning experience on its own. It's like, you have to want to do it. It was a big step. And then, it just all lined up and it seemed like the right thing to do. There was a lot of attractive things about the program that I could see how I could incorporate it into my busy life. So it really worked out really well. I'm very happy.
So I'm curious to know what was your experience like when you were in the program? So what was like a day in the life or a week in the life in the program? If you can share some of your experiences around that.
Oh, for sure. Well, I felt very confident in the program. I liked the layout and the fact that it was curated. That took off a lot of the pressure on having to worry about, picking courses and that sort of thing. So I knew going in that it was kind of a step-by-step process. If I just followed, what I was told to do, it was going to work out. So I had certainly a level of confidence going in. When I finally got to go to residency, that was probably what was so exciting for me. I really, really loved going to campus, and I really loved the opportunity to meet other students and to look around and say, wow, they're here. There's people like me out in the world. So, when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of feel like a loner. You're just kind of out, carving your way and doing your thing. But that community feel around the cohort, the fact that the faculty were there and they were focused on these things that I knew were going to benefit my career, and also just the support from the great personalities at Royal Roads. Right away it felt warm, welcoming, and encouraging.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. So if you could choose, what would be like the absolute best part of the program and what would be like the least best part of the program?
It's probably cliche, but the best part was meeting new people. It was the interacting with people from all over Canada, lots of different personalities. You learn a lot about yourself really quickly. It is definitely clearly presented that this is a team, based approach of learning. And that absolutely is true. And quite quickly, when you're trying to accomplish goals alongside strangers, you learn a lot interpersonally right away. So, and you bond. So that was probably the best part, is that you instantly bond with people that, will be lifelong friends. The least would be juggling the assignments, would be when, everything's kind of piling up. You got a couple courses going on and you have life happening and events happening, just managing that stress, is hard in the beginning. When you're not used to writing essays, it's like, I don't even know how many hours I would put into one individual essay in the beginning. And then once you kind of get it down, the flow going, further into the program, you got to just cranking off your essays. But at first it's a lot, a lot to manage.
Thank you for sharing that. And I understand I recently did a program at Royal Roads, and remembering how to write essays. If you haven't written essays in a while, it's a learning curve, but then you get your groove back and you get into the flow of things, and it becomes natural and normal again. But I echo you on that. It's definitely a bit of a shock at first. So kind of diving more into your career and you, I love asking this question to people because I feel like it can really kind of give some insight into how they got to where they are. So what is the best piece of career advice that you've ever been given?
Oh, interesting. I would say the thing that's made the most impact, and it seems to kind of really stick with me as I'm going along, is to kind of tackle life and everything in chapters. Being a doer and trying to, go out there and make things happen in the world. You kind of want it all to happen at once and all to come together. And that can be frustrating and overwhelming. So once I kind of just stepped back and thought, okay, this is what I'm doing now. This is where I live now. This is, whatever the pieces are. And it's been very liberating. Like, I just feel like that was the best advice, because I feel like, I can just manage stress, or I just know that, those things that I really want to attain, they'll come, but everything has its time.
So what's the name of this chapter? If you were to name it in the book that you're in right now, what is the name of this chapter? And you don't have to answer that if I put you.
I was going to say COVID-19.
COVID-21.
Yeah. Being in tourism, the impacts of the pandemic have been, pretty dramatic, but in a way, it kind of brought out the best in entrepreneurial mindset. We instantly had, a good close to 90% of our clientele come from out of country. So when those borders closed, it was like, wow. And so instead of, becoming fearful or shutting down, I went into instant problem solving mode. And so I just saw opportunities everywhere. People were, feeling like, it was, that it's going to be so problematic, but I just saw opportunities all over the place and just decided, just keep going. And so there was lots of pivoting, lots of creativity. So that's kind of what this last few years chapters has represented. And it really kind of came a good timing because I was able to finish the program, finish my capstone, and really focus on it. Because of the pandemic, I was kind of slower and my workload was much less. And so I felt like that was an opportunity as well. And then just to be able to come up with new ideas and new approaches. And then so now that we'll hopefully be coming out of that, it's taking all those lessons, all the lessons from my life experience, all my lessons from the program, all my lessons from, having to respond to the pandemic, and like rebirthing once again in the spring when the bears wake up.
Wow, that's exciting. And that's a lot to balance and juggle. Like, what do you think was one of your biggest learnings throughout this past year because it sounds like you were saying you pivoted a lot and you tried a lot of new things. Like, do you have any learnings that you could share around that with us?
Oh yeah, I mean, there definitely can be a lot to juggle. I have 2 teenage children as well. And so I think, just staying, positive, like looking for the opportunities, because it's like anything, it's what you choose to focus on. So I just kind of always was just looking for the light and for the cracks, and trying to be a bit of a light too, like even as a business. No, we're open, we're operating, like, yes, come, and just kind of, keeping that openness instead of shutting down, even though we were being shut down, kind of really, really paid off. And it helped me, like, when the entire village of Whistler was shut down, the vast majority of businesses, the hotels, the tourism centers, everything was shuttered. I opened a store. I opened a retail space on the village stroll, and that really helped keep me positive and feel like I was taking action, and I had some control over my business, my life, what I was able to do, provide for the family and that sort of thing. So I think just keeping open and not letting the stuff overwhelm you.
Wow, that is an incredible story. And is the retail store still open right now, or is it closed for the season?
Yeah, it's seasonal, so it's perfect. It's Whistler, there's winter businesses and summer businesses, so it's kind of a perfect balance. So when the bears hibernate, I get to rest.
So for everybody here who wants to come visit you in the spring, what's the open date?
So we try to open for around May 1st. It's a little bit flexible depending on snowpack and when the bears are around. But generally mid-May to mid-June is our prime month. It's not very busy. There's not a lot of tourists traveling at that time of year. So it is an incredible time for, domestic and regional people. If you want to come hang out with bears, that's the time to do it.
That's so cool. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about like juggling, like you had like kids, you have work, you had school. Can you talk a bit more about what was your approach to juggling kids, work, school, life, all the other things? How did you do it?
Well, it was interesting experience how school kind of just takes over your life. For me anyways, it really just was like a priority. My whole rhythm kind of centered around the classes, the assignments, when I was meeting with my student teams, when I had classes with the teachers. So it kind of became the center that everything else kind of pivoted around. And so, at times, there could be some clashes there. I was really fortunate in the way that my business is seasonal, and the approach at Royal Roads in the program allows you to step out if needed. So I didn't know I was going to need that. I really thought I was just going to go straight through, but I really did need to take advantage of the opportunity to push the pause button, step out of the program and then just step back in a few months later once, things settled down for my work. So the program itself allowed me to be able to juggle those things and manage that. So I did take two little breaks. Again, I didn't know I was going to need it, but it was just so perfect. And it was very easy. And it was just very simple. And I appreciated that.
Thank you for sharing that. And sometimes you need to take that pause. Ross, what were you about to say?
I was just going to say that, and you weren't fussed about, well, the plan of completing in 2 years was now off. In the grand scheme of things, an extra few months or a year is not a big deal.
That's exactly right. Because you want to be able to, do well. You don't want to break and not enjoy the experience, because it's a lot. It's a pretty intense program. When you're done, you're like, oh, yeah, that's great. When you're in it, it's like, whoa, it's a lot of material. And, it's just, it's something that you have to be really committed to. So you want to make sure you're giving it your all, and that opportunity to be able to just take a pause button. And it's true. In the end, I finished when I finished, and a neat opportunity out of that was that I was able to enter 3 different cohorts. So that was 3 different groups of people I got to meet. So that was kind of interesting in its own way, that it kind of expanded my school experience by having exposure to different groups.
Can you talk a little bit about, so aside from the balance, you were already on your entrepreneurial journey, you were building a business. How were you able to benefit while you're in the program in terms of applying the learnings that you were taking away from your studies?
It was really amazing. There's a lot of opportunity to actually take the assignments and the things that you're working on and, apply it to your own business. So I absolutely took advantage of every opportunity to be, whether it's writing an environmental corporate social responsibility plan for my actual business, and it's an assignment. So it dovetailed beautifully. And I think my business benefited massively from it. So it felt like, it was, directly related and training to do with the business. It didn't feel like I was being pulled away at all, that it contributed.
I think that making that connection, you made that connection between studies and work and life. Do you think that enabled you to stay engaged more deeply and more sustainably than if, as you said, you felt like you were studying this thing but living something else?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it definitely, that helped me stay focused and stay motivated, because I knew that there was the benefit there. Even for the certain courses that were unrelated, I knew it was giving me a foundation and strengthening, my knowledge base, overall. So it allowed me to be super, super engaged. And it's really great. You certainly don't need to have, a business or, something that a startup that you're focused on. But if you happen to, it's really contributes a lot to what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one of the benefits of blended learning. If you're studying while you're working and living, you have the opportunity to apply the learnings from both spheres into the other. So life and work can feed into school, school can feed into life and work. And if you have any form of employment, I think there's the opportunity to onboard what it is that you're learning and seek out opportunities to apply it.
Absolutely. And like I said earlier, the fact that you're learning how you work in teams, like you're learning about yourself interpersonally. Like I learned just tons of relationships, like how a parent I was, how to manage my children, all sorts of things are coming from
Right.
the whole experience. Yeah.
So do we want to see whether or not there are some questions from those who are joining us? I see Emara has asked anybody that they have any questions for Sherry or myself. Please feel free to do so. And Sherry, now that you look back on the experience, it's now kind of past, but you're obviously carrying forward some of those insights, some of those critical takeaways. What would your advice or perspective to folks that are considering going back to school, and specifically the BCom program, what could you offer them?
Ooh. I think it's really, really valuable, that sort of rewiring of your brain. The critical thinking aspect, I think, is so beneficial in all areas of your life. So going through this whole sort of program and process of learning how to approach problems and the entrepreneurial mindset that you're going to be exposed to in this particular program is going to open up your line of thinking in so many different ways. And then I really just think, now that I'm done looking back, that sense of accomplishment is just so amazing. If you really want to do it, the fact that it is this curated, manageable program, you're going to come out the other side and you're going to have your degree. And that sense of accomplishment, is really going to kind of, bolster your confidence going forward.
So is that what it's done for you, is kind of giving you that extra bit of confidence to go forth, maybe in ways that you maybe would have been hesitant to do previously?
Absolutely. Like I said, now it's always there. So there'll be times that I'm like, contemplating different things. I'm like, oh yeah. Like, no, I have my degree behind me. I know. It's almost like it gave me a new baseline. It kind of upped the level for me, that now my foundation of knowledge is, at a new level. And so now I can build from there.
Great. Wonderful.
Wow, I've learned a lot from you. Thank you for sharing all of this. I see there is a question. Would you have liked to be more at the campus, or the time you spent on the campus was just right?
For me personally, I would have loved even more time. I was like completely enamored by the campus. And being, like, again, a more mature student, with teens, it was a really great opportunity for me to kind of get away. I loved the gardens. I loved Hatley Castle. I loved interacting with everyone. In retrospect too, it was kind of just right. We did, unfortunately with COVID, lose some time, and, our convocation was, virtual and that sort of thing. That probably would have been just right if I got to kind of have that experience. But, the online, to be able to be at home and to manage everything, on Zoom, from the comfort of your living room and stuff is just, it's great.
And for folks that are considering the program, there's 3 residencies. We're going to be back into the on-campus residing business in the new year. So I'm looking forward to welcoming for the cohort for March. They'll be joining us on campus. We have our next residency actually in February, which will be a Res 3 for a group of learners who haven't been on campus before, because we haven't been on campus. The last time we had a residency in the BCom was February of 2020, and the next one will be February of 2022. Fortunately, every cohort will have had at least, over the last couple of years, we'll have had at least one time on campus. But the cohorts moving forward, any new cohorts, we're expecting 3 on-campus residencies. The first one is 8 days, the second one is 8 days, and Res 3 at this point is up to 5 days. So at least 3 opportunities to come to Victoria and spend some time on the grounds, which, as you say, Sherry, is a lovely place to spend time.
And if you are interested in learning more about the BCom program itself, we do have a recent webinar that you can watch. We have a recording of it. So I'll share it out by email to everybody. It's also on our YouTube channel. And I have a question that somebody direct messaged me. So I'll ask that to you, Sherry. It's, Sherry, you talked about how the people in your class was one of the highlights of your experience. Who were the people that took the program with you, and were they all entrepreneurs like you?
Oh, okay. It was interesting. There was a full like age spectrum. I was on the higher end of it. There were people from all across Canada, or some people even were kind of like living abroad on cruise ships and that sort of thing. And I would say a small percentage were entrepreneurs, quite small. So the program really does work for people who are looking more for that, if they just have careers for that more entrepreneurial, approach. It's really great that way as well. Some people were full on career professionals that their corporate company had sent them to go get their BCom. And then there was other people who just were trying to, younger and starting off, or people trying to make a life change. it was the full spectrum. And I think that's kind of what really is one of the great things about this program, is that there's people from all walks of life, all ages, from all across the country, and it makes it very diverse.
Yeah, it's an atypical demographic for an undergraduate business program. I think we'd be the most unique in the country in terms of the age spectrum and the background and experience spectrum that we have. So we have learners from mid-20s right to mid-50s, with the average age being mid-30s for the blended learners. So yeah. And you're right, Sherry. I would say it's more the minority that come in already on an entrepreneurial journey or already dedicated to crafting one. So there is the opportunity to be taking the learnings, as you said, understanding what it means to be thinking and acting entrepreneurially, and apply that to any work context you find yourself in.
Yeah, because the way we're going forward in life with the new society, I really believe entrepreneurial mindset is key. We all need flexible, approaches to problem solving and stuff. So I think it's a really great, program.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry, so much. And thank you for sharing this chapter of your book with us and past chapters. And we'll have to connect again and have you back, and you can share what the next chapter is going to be like, or where you are. And I want to thank you, Ross, for joining us today. And thank you for everyone in the room for tuning in live. It was great to have you all here. And I'll be sharing out the recording by email, and we'll also have it on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions whatsoever for any of us about the program or Sherry's experience or anything, just connect with me and I will connect you with the right person. Wonderful. Hope everybody has a great rest of their morning, afternoon, or evening.